Released originally for Japanese arcades in February of 1999 and then later that same month for the Dreamcast in Japan and worldwide in September of 1999, it's Power Stone. The game was also later re-released with its sequel on the PSP in 2006 and was known as the Power Stone Collection. However, what you're seeing on screen is the Dreamcast version of the game, running with a Gameshark code to enable an anamorphic widescreen aspect ratio and being run through VGA. I'll have the code below in the description if anyone is interested. Moving on, Power Stone was developed and published by Capcom for North America and published by Eidos for European territories. The game is a fighting game, but more specifically a 3D arena-based fighting game, allowing you to pick up different weapons and items and even throw around various objects in the environment. The game has 8 different playable characters to start with in arcade mode, but you can unlock 2 more by simply clearing the arcade mode of each character. There's also a versus mode for local 2-player multiplayer and fighting, but I didn't really capture or play any of this. Power Stone also did its own anime adaptation as well in 1999, a few months after the release in Japan. As for the story and context, the game is set in the 19th century, as different fighters from around the world search in pursuit of fame, fortune, glory, and the legendary Power Stones. But is Power Stone any good? Let's find out first with the good. From starting up the game for the first time and witnessing its introduction and narration, to the different stages you'll be fighting in and the highly stylized characters, the art direction and overall presentation of Power Stone is extremely well done. And most importantly, the gameplay matches this. It's extremely fun and easy to pick up and play for newcomers while still having plenty of depth and challenge as well. From the different combos and grabs and different movesets in general with its cast of characters, as well as different transformations and super moves to perform. My favorite easily being Wayne Tang, since his transformation in particular reminds me of a certain anime. Not to mention the different items you can find and use in the environment, everything from swords to guns and other surprises. Power Stone also has a fair bit of replayability as well. Once you've cleared the arcade mode, you'll unlock different items you can use in the Power Stone Collection section of the menu, which overall makes replaying the game a lot more interesting to do once you've unlocked numerous different types of items and weapons to use. And of course, once you've cleared the arcade mode over 6 times, you'll also begin unlocking VMU mini-games that you can play on your VMU. Mind you, they do take up 128 blocks, so they'll pretty much eat up the entire space of your VMU, so be warned. You can unlock up to 3 different VMU minigames. Falcon's Aerial Adventure, where you basically see how far you can fly while dodging these small bombs and birds, and collect Power Stones to gain a boost in speed. Once you've hit a bird or a bomb, it's game over. Next up, Ayami's Shuriken Training, where you basically aim and throw shurikens at stuff on screen until you run out of shurikens. And then you've got Gunrot's Gun Slots, which is basically just a simple slot machine game and nothing really too memorable. But now let's discuss what we'd rather forget with the bad. Now, as I said earlier, the game has plenty of challenge, especially in the later sections of the arcade mode, but nothing that will make you outright quit. But I personally feel it's a bit unbalanced in some areas. Take for example Gunrock. I don't know why, but personally, out of all of the characters in arcade mode, fighting him for me was easily the worst. Primarily because he's big and massive and does a ton of damage. His only drawback is that he's pretty slow, but considering how small the stages you fight in are, speed I feel isn't a huge factor, so he repeatedly kicked my ass my first go with him. But eventually I did beat him by the skin of my teeth, and more or less kept doing so with each of my runs through the arcade mode. Then when playing as him, I feel like I swept the arcade mode like it was nothing for the same reasons. So I feel he's a tiny bit overpowered, but that's just me. Also, Wayne Tang is great and all, as I've said, but his stage was an absolute nightmare due to all the different furniture and items everywhere. But with that said, this is all very minor and very opinionated and subjective. But speaking of which, let's move on next to the opinion. Power Stone at the end of the day is an extremely fun arcade fighting game right in the comfort of your own home, and a somewhat unique fighting game at that. It has a varied cast of characters and a ton of replayability through different unlockables. I highly recommend anyone with a Dreamcast to pick this up. It's a must-own for your collection. But with this video review coming to an end, now it's time I give the rating. I give Power Stone 20 Capcom Edge points out of 10.